Hello and welcome to another episode of Play by Mahmood. And here we have an amazing guest, Jarie Bolander, and he is an entrepreneur and has founded multiple startups. So he has an experience of over 25 years now. So
Yeah, it's been a long time. Been a long time.
yeah, that's a lot. Like that's more than my age.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely. So tell us a bit more about your story. Like,
Sure. Yeah. Well, Mahmoud, I really appreciate you having me on the show. I know how hard it is to get guests to be on a show since I have my own podcast called the Entrepreneur Ethos. I've been doing it almost a year. So, good on you for starting this and like really trying to capture what you think and other people think and be a resource for the world because more people need to tell their story. And so, as you mentioned, what's my story, right? Well, as you mentioned a little bit before, I'm an engineer by training and an entrepreneur by nature. I've got over 25 years of experience doing startups and all sorts of startups from hardware, semiconductor, biology, digital. I mean, just I've done all these things. I've got what would be called an eclectic career of startups. And so I love startups. I love entrepreneurs. I love talking to people about entrepreneurship. I really feel that entrepreneurship is something that everyone in the world can do. It is probably one of the best jobs. If it's for you, it's one of the best jobs you can do because it really builds an independent life that completes you as long as you're in it for the right reasons. And that's, I think, what I try to get across on the show. That's why I like talking to other podcasters and being on other shows to sort of really encapsulate this idea, this kind of nugget of truth, so to speak, that entrepreneurship can be used for good and has a real pull for lots of different people. So that's me in a nutshell.
yeah, that's really awesome. Like I just like got our words. Like you said with entrepreneurship with right intention. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so that's actually, I'm glad you picked up on that. A lot of times, younger folk like yourself may want to get into entrepreneurship because of the fame, fortune, prestige, money, unicorn, all that sort of stuff. And while the external trappings of being an entrepreneur can be great, there could be a lot of money and a lot of fame. It's that's very fleeting. That hardly ever comes. Most of us entrepreneurs will never be Elon Musk, will never be Mark Zuckerberg. We just won't. The odds are so against us that you hardly ever get those kind of exits. But the reason why people do it, once they figure this out, they do it because it's this independent life that completes them. And it's the journey. Everyone says, oh, be cool with the journey, right? And as a younger person, you probably hear that all the time. Oh, it's okay, man. Like like you've got plenty of time. Well, you do have plenty of time to kind of like grow your career. And I know a lot of people get really anxious about, I need to make more money. I need to be more successful. But as an entrepreneur, really, it's the journey, it's the discovery, it's the creativity, it's the freedom to do what you want to do. And there's a price for that. And the price for that is that you don't always become wildly successful. And if you pursue entrepreneurship for the fame, fortune, and prestige, you will get let down because most of us don't make it. Quote unquote, make it. What do I mean by make it? I mean, most of us aren't on the cover of Forbes magazine or launching rockets or having $1 billion exits. We do this job because we love to. We love to create. We love to have the freedom to do what we want to do. And then hopefully along the way, we make a living. And most of us do. And then some of people that try it say, not for me, I'm going to corporate or whatever. Right. So yeah.
Yeah, like that's like when you complete like consistent motivation, and we have to
Yeah.
we have to motivate ourselves as well.
100%. 100%. I mean, I think that intrinsic motivation, that internal motivation is what really separates the successful entrepreneurs from the not so successful entrepreneurs. And again, don't get me wrong, like making money is great. Having an exit's great. But if that's your only motivation, you're going to be disappointed and you're going to be chasing the wrong thing. Because there's a lot of times where you'll be in a situation where you could do the easy thing and get the money or get the deal or whatever at the expense of your ethical, moral compass. And there's lots of people that you see in the news that have done that. And, I mean, some of them are, sociopathic type people that are narcissistic and don't like, to them, it's just normal. But for the rest of us and the rest of society, that's just a bad behavior. And, you don't want to have people get into the gig for the wrong reasons,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So like that was like a very awesome perspective. I completely agree with that. So now, like, can you share like a major moment that like completely changed your life? Like,
yeah, that's actually a very, very good question. There's been several moments in my life that have changed changed its trajectory, as I like to say. I think, I mean, there's like I actually have kind of two. That was a really good one, and one was a really, really bad thing. And I'll start with the really good one. The really good one was actually going to school in Silicon Valley, and I had thought I wanted to be an engineer and whatever, and I live in Silicon Valley, and the thing that was this like life-changing moment was going to school in I went to San Jose State, going to school in San Jose and being around all these people that were actually not only going to school, but doing startups. And actually the profound moment in my life when I realized, oh, startups are for me, is I was in school in a class with my lab partner at the time in one of our labs, and he was at a startup. And he's just like, hey, you should come work for us. And, I had to work my way through school. So I was like, gosh, well, I don't know how much I can do this. The opportunity was right there, but like it's at night and I just like, I'm so swamped with classes, but I decided, you know what, I'm going to do it. And that just profoundly changed my life, because that one job led to every other job. And those people that kind of took me under their wing and taught me how to be an entrepreneur, taught me about semiconductor physics and, chip design and all these things were like fundamental to my life. Right. So totally went on the trajectory of startups and technology. So that was a pretty profoundly positive one. At the time, the profoundly negative one was when my wife died of leukemia. She died almost 4 years ago. And that was pretty awful thing to go through. That event, she'd been sick for 15 months or so. And the day she died was this really profound event in my life that had two massive components to it. One was absolute relief, like, oh my gosh, this is over, followed by intense sorrow and grief. I just didn't even know what to do with my life, because, I was 46, like a 46-year-old widower. Like, I mean, this is crazy. Like no one ever expect to have that kind of a life event. She was actually 36. So she didn't expect to die at 36 either. So from that profoundly like low, I had a choice to make. And the choice was I could be in my own little private pity party. I could let grief and sorrow completely consume me and go down the path that a lot of people go down, which is of abuse of substances, which I did a little bit, full disclosure, I wasn't perfect. Or I could use it to sort of fall forward, or, instead of like reverting back to a state of despair, I could be like, I could work towards how am I going to make this positive, right? Which at the time you never think this is not positive. It can't be. There's nothing positive about this. And so from that profoundly negative, grief-stricken, sorrowful, private pity party moment, I made the decision that I'm going to work hard every day. And I say every day because every day to me is a gift. That every day I'm going to use the day I got, the day that my wife Jane did not get, and that so many other people did not get, to do something good, at least something positive, like leave the day a little better than I found it. Now, it might seem, granola-y, wishy-washy, completely, like, oh, you're so zen about this stuff or whatever, right? But the foundational thing was every day I want to use that day wisely, and I want to get better. Because I went through a tough time. In fact, there's days I still go through a tough day, but every day I get a little better. And that's the same thing with being an entrepreneur or being a podcaster, anything creative. It's all about every day I get a little better. And so from that profoundly negative, griefful, stricken day forward, I've just been trying every day to get a little better. And in the end, the beautiful thing that came of that was my dedication to not only making myself better, but making the world around me better, dedicating myself to helping people tell better stories, helping entrepreneurs. Like I refocused what was important, right? And it's unfortunate that it took a tragedy to refocus what's important. And again, every day I have struggle with this because I'm a human and I've got emotions about it. And I know I feel cheated, I do. Like some days I'm like, gosh, this was a bad thing. But as you kind of work through that, then, look, I've now have a fiance, found love again. I'm like working towards a better me. There's like a lot of positives that are coming out of this tragic event. So even though it fundamentally changed me, and it still does, and even though at the time it was extremely sorrowful and grieving, it was just awful, right? When you hit quote unquote rock bottom, or you hit that, you're going to bounce off the bottom, as they say, it's really up to you how you're going to deal with it. You could let it consume you, or you can learn from it and grow. And I decided to learn and grow. And I'm still a work in progress, right? I mean, even at 50, it's like, I don't know everything. I don't, what the heck do I know, right? I honestly, there's some days where I'm just like, I don't know what's going on, and I'm sure some young people feel the same way. Like, I just don't know what I don't know. Well, as you get older, you also realize you don't know what you don't know, but you're more comfortable not knowing. You're like, yeah, whatever, been around a while, whatever. Like you start to really realize what's important. And, it took that tragedy to realize what's important. And I still, again, struggle with this. This is a constant quote unquote battle. But that profound event, I can confidently say now, I see the benefit, the upside, the beauty, the growth from it almost 4 years later, right? So, yeah, it's tough, but when we have tough things in our life, we can use that to grow. So,
yeah. Like I'm really sorry to hear that. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
And also glad that like many people actually go on the negative side completely, and it's glad to hear that you just bounce off the of that rock bottom.
Yeah, it was hard. Don't get me wrong, you know.
Yeah,
It took a
absolutely.
lot of like hitting the bottom. Not perfect, believe you me. Like anyone that thinks they got it all sorted out, no, they don't. No one does. They all, everyone's trying to do the best they can, or at least I always think everyone's trying to do the best they can. I will give people the benefit of the doubt on that because who knows what people are going through. But yeah, I appreciate that. And again, I think it even leads to just all sorts of ways to lead life, you know, like it's very profound, very profound.
Yeah, absolutely. No, like one thing though, that like as you said, like this is from like my little experience, like of a few months or years, that like when we hear something, like we think everyone is the same. Like that's the thing. Like if we are like suffering, we think everyone is suffering. Like, or if we are like happy, we think everyone is happy. Like that's the thing that like that's our normal thing as a human, like, but like that's like we also may never like, it's like sometimes we like forgot that there are people who have also gone through a native way, like, or are completely different, like chose completely a different way of life than us. Like you are like you try to be the best version of yourself, but
Mm-hmm.
someone like didn't just lost it. They
Yeah.
like it's not, I'm not gonna say like it's their fault or anything. It's just the situation was that like they didn't had anything in mind.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, that's very, very, very astute. Yeah. I think you're right. You know, I think when you come at it from a more of a humanity point of view, like this is another person who's going through something that you don't even know about. You know, I firmly believe that most people, if not all people, are just trying to figure it out, and sometimes they've got situations in their life that make it harder for them. And you know, I can't really judge someone's journey. There's certain things, of course, that you know we've all universally agreed upon are kind of bad, but generally who knows what's going on in someone else's head? Who knows, right? Like I can't judge them. I can only try to be my best self, you know.
Yeah. It's all about like what you think is right. It's not about what's good or bad. Like for you, what's right for you. Like everyone thinking like this is right. What I'm doing is right. Even like with when if we think about the people who did very bad things according to the like society, like for even for them that was right. Like is their perspective. I don't know what happened to them, and no one can actually judge, like we are judging based on like what society says, but personally we don't know what they have been through, like what struggles or like what's was their thought process. I think it's just
Yeah,
from, yeah, absolutely.
yeah. Well, it's very, very good point. Very good point.
Yeah. So like the next thing that I want to ask, like tell like three of your like in three people who influence you in your journey, like most influential people.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, there's of course all sorts of people that influence us throughout life. Some we meet, some we don't meet, some we read their book or we read their an article, we hear them speak, or in passing have some sort of contact. So in terms of the people that have like directly impacted or influenced my life that I've either known or like they know who I am or we know each other as opposed to like a Joe Rogan or a Stephen Pressfield. Well, I actually met Stephen Pressfield, but I mean, those people that are like, you look up to and you're like, oh, wow, like they've got some stuff going on. So people that have been in my life that have directly, influenced it, I'd say, well, of course, Jane, my late wife, she influenced me significantly from lots of different ways. Currently, my fiance Minerva, who has been a very instrumental, loving person, not only in the life we're going to lead moving forward, but in helping me deal with a lot of the challenges that I had to go through with grief and loss. So that was beautiful. She still has this, beautiful way about her that I look up to and, sometimes try to emulate as best I can. There's my mom's mom, my grandmother, who was she survived World War II. She was in the Netherlands during the occupation of the Netherlands by the Nazis, and she just had this interesting way about her. She's Dutch, so Dutch people are very stoic. If you know any Dutch people, they're
like, I don't know.
I mean, well, I'm in a generalization on Dutch people, so don't bag on me if you're Dutch, because you know who you are. But she was pretty profound impact on me as well, and just just from it's just different, like grandparents and parents. And of course, my parents have had a big influence on me as well. But for whatever reason, grandparents have a different take on the world, And so she was always very, it's just a different, it's like a different relationship. And she's the one that really got me kind of interested in entrepreneurship and business. Like she always wanted to like buy and sell real estate, and she was, back in the day, she was a housewife. Like she did some, a little bit of college, but like that was their role back then. I mean, she, like they came over here after World War II. Actually, no, they came to Aruba after World War II. And then here in the 50s, I think they came here in the 60s. So, here in the US in the 50s and 60s, there was the nuclear family where mom stayed home and dad, my grandfather, went to work. He was a doctor. Okay, that's just what they did. It was, but she had just this profound impact on me in terms of what was possible and, how to be like a business person, entrepreneur. And, Jane was similar. That was my late wife. She was an entrepreneur as well. And so we shared that. And then, Minerva now is, we share a different type of relationship that's just different yet still profound. It's like these sort of stages in your life where like the right people come. It seems a little weird. It's like, oh, hello, how are you? But yeah, I think I'd pick those three.
Yeah, it seems like right people come at the most right time.
I agree. And it may or may not be destiny or fate, but whatever it is, like you catch on to it. It happens. You catch on to it, right? And maybe it's the vibe you put out. I don't know. We could get very metaphysical about it, but I think definitely your attitude towards life attracts other people that have similar attitudes, or the ones that can kind of, help you through.
Yeah. Okay. So like, as you said, like the vibration, like do you actually believe in the law of attraction and things?
I mean, I think there's something there. I don't know if it's some cosmic thing where you can measure it. But like you can generally see this as a kind of a heuristic, right? If you're more entrepreneurial, as an example, you will be attracted to other entrepreneurs. I don't know if it's just because you're like, oh, entrepreneur, like you will want to hang around the people that you want to hang around with. I mean, you can see this if you're into sports. if you're into playing music, going to rock shows. I mean, I used to go to concerts a lot, before COVID, not a ton before COVID, but when I was a kid, you'd see the same people because we're attracted to these same things. So if there's some external thing you're attracted to or some identity, you're going to find those people. And generally, if y'all are interested in similar things, my guess is that you're going to get along. I mean, you may not get along with everyone, but that law of attraction thing is, I think, there. I mean, I don't know about the opposites attract one. There's another heuristic that says, oh, well, you want to find your opposite. That I'm not sure about. I think we try to find people that complement ourselves and that we get along with. Yeah. And that we get along with. And this is actually can be a really constraining, limiting thing because, if you only go around people that look like you and talk like you, then you don't get to hear other people's point of view. So we would never, I mean, I don't know if we would ever meet in real life because you're in another country and but I'm really enjoying our conversation. I mean, this is something you're in a different country, different generation, different culture, but we share a common humanity. We do. We both like podcasts. We both have our own podcasts, right? We're both interested in what other people have to say. That's a lot of common ground that probably most of us in the world have, right?
Yeah. And we both are interested in sports and music, I guess.
Yeah, sports a little bit, not music a little bit, but you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
So, I think, there's something to that. I just don't know how to quantify it.
Yeah, I still don't know. I explored this topic, I guess, a few years back. I don't know, into the 2018, I guess. At that time, I was exploring about this topic a bit. I didn't go very deep into that, but I searched or read a few books about that. And yeah, that was interesting, because that's a completely different perspective of people. There are a number of people who completely are obsessed with this thing. Yeah That's
true.
Yeah. So now next, so if money was an option, so this we're going on a very different topic, but it's connected. Yeah. So if money wasn't an option, so what would you do every day?
Well, I actually think about this occasionally because, I'm of the age where I'm quote unquote supposed to thinking about retirement, which probably to my fiance's dismay, I don't really consider myself ever retiring, right? Well, I'd probably, I'd probably do what I'm doing now, actually. I mean, I really enjoy, doing the podcast. I write books. I think I mentioned before, my podcast is based on the book, The Entrepreneur Ethos. I'd write more books. I teach more people about telling stories. I really enjoy copywriting. I know one of the episodes you did was about the AIDA method for copywriting and how to convince people. And so I would, I'm working on right now, trying to build a kind of a framework of how to tell better stories and how to write better copy and how to do better marketing through stories. So I would, I sort of doing that for free right now because people pay me to do it as my job. I run a PR and marketing firm, so I get paid to write. But I think I would be doing, more of what I'm doing now, which is trying to teach the next generation coming up about entrepreneurship and storytelling. And really also kind of combining this whole, what it's like to grieve as a man. I think that a lot of men are suffering because they can't express themselves. And as humans, we need to express the entire range of motion that we have, from anger and sorrow. And, we're all human and we all have the same human emotions, right? So I'd probably do more of that, help build quote unquote better men, and really have that conversation about what it's like to be vulnerable and share your feelings. And in the same breath, that doesn't mean you're weak or less manly or any of that. I think we got to redefine society wise, masculinity and what that all means. And so I think it starts with helping men be able to grieve in a healthy way, because no matter what, it's sad to say, we're all going to have a problem, a challenge, a moment where we're going to be grieving. And the better we can handle that, I think the better the world will be. So I'd probably do more of that. But the beautiful thing about being an entrepreneur is, like, there's times I don't get paid to do what I do. So it's like, yeah, I guess I do entrepreneurship for free. You know what I mean? It's like, so I've already done that a bunch of times. So I guess I like it.
Yeah, like a major part of entrepreneurship is doing everything for free, like almost a major part of it. Like a major.
Well, there's that part, but there's exploring an idea. So, I always recommend people, if they want to try the entrepreneur gig, to do a side hustle, which everyone talks about. What's your side hustle? What's your side hustle? A lot of times, that side hustle you're not getting paid for, but you're doing it. I mean, it's not a hobby, because hobbies, you should never get paid for your hobbies. I think that's a bad kind of mix of doing. But if you're interested in something as a side hustle, eventually becoming a business, then yeah, like, you're going to do that for free for a while until you figure it out. Like people that build websites through like no code or apps or whatever, they're like, I just think this is so cool. I'm going to do, a side hustle. I have a friend, Phil, who has this, Find Your Side Hustle podcast, and he's got all these side hustles, and he's just like loves nothing more than to like build stuff, He's got a full-time job, but he kind of does this side hustle stuff for free until it becomes his full-time job. So, and I hope his employer doesn't listen to this and say, Phil. Well, I'm not going to say Phil's last name, but now I told you as his podcast, so people will know who he is. But you know what I mean? Like that whole attitude about what would you do for free? It's an interesting question, and I'm glad you brought it up, because a lot of times people think, oh, well, I would do my hobbies for free, which you do. Like, you got to have, the thing I found is you have to have these different things that occupy your time. You do things to get paid to live. You do things for the pure art and love and enjoyment of whatever, right? It's just beauty, like play sports, watch whatever it is that you just enjoy this. I would do it for quote unquote free. And then there's things that you do to learn and grow that you hope eventually you'll use those skills to either make money or do other things, right? Like and the mix of all that is like where you find the happiness and the joy in life, right? You don't want to do too much work. You're like, gosh, I'm working 15 hours a day and I can't enjoy it. And then again, you don't want to be doing nothing all day, then you feel worthless, or at least I would. So
yeah, so yeah, like that's like the two things that you said, like first one, I was like giving people, like teaching men about like the grief, like it's okay to be vulnerable, like that thing. And the second thing is like doing things which we can monetize later to grow ourselves, like doing these things for free. Like these are actually very important. Like I'll share like one of my experiences. So last year, like on August, like my pet died. Like that's my first pet. Like he was with us from around 1.5 years, 1 year, 3 months. And for some reason, after shifting, he got out and fought with another cat. He was a cat, and he fought with another cat, and he died on August 8th. So the thing was, I was not able to cry in public. Yeah, like that's the thing. Like I was very sad, but like the thing is, like after that incident, I knew that I don't know how to cry in public. Like I'm feeling very sad. Like after coming home, I cried, but like when no one was around. But it's just I don't know how to cry. in public, in front of people.
Yeah.
Like, and the society says, like, from like when I was extremely young,
Mm.
the people taught us like men don't cry and stuff. Like no, like we also cry. Yeah, we feel very sad. We sometimes we don't know what to do, and we just want to let go of our emotions. And yeah, that's like a very awesome thing that you said. And the second thing, like growing our passion, um, like growing skills for player monetization. Like I don't say like one thing though, like that I'm doing right now. Like I like this is not something I want to say in this podcast, but I want to say like in the next couple months, like I want to help like 500 companies who cannot afford to work with me, or like are in very bad situations, like for
Mm.
free, to
Mm.
create their brands, like create their strategy, or like plan their, like create their strategy in a sense, like create this strategy or differentiation points and all these things. Like I want to do it for free, who are not able to afford my services, who are not able to afford to work with me right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's
Mm-hmm.
one thing like I'm trying to do right now as a side thing. Like also like this is not completely free as well. Like as you said, like it is free in terms of monetary gains. Like I'm not getting paid a single money, or like I don't have any like thing to ask from them, but
Mm.
I'm learning a lot. Like as I'm
Mm.
working with like these people like from different industries, like, let's say, like I'm learning. That's the thing. Like, and I can more like immensely monetize this. Like I can like use this experience or the knowledge later in my life to like just earn a lot. That's the one thing.
Mm.
But
Mm-hmm.
also those people are getting help, right? So that's was what I said. Anyway.
Well, no, I mean, and I think, you like you're, it's really fascinating that you do bring that up because, you're young, right? So there's a lot you need to learn.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of times people are like, oh, work-life balance and all these sort of things. And, there's something to be said for that. Like, you don't want to work so hard that you don't have a life. But there are times in your life where you have to work hard because you don't know what you don't know. I mean, why do you go to college? Why do you work? I mean, you have no idea. Like, you have no clue. So you got to get up as fast as you can up the learning curve, right? And that's what you're trying to do, right? Hey, I'm going to help people so I can learn as much as I can because I'm investing in my talents, right? You have lots of talents that you're investing in, and you're building what's called a talent stack so that as time goes on, those talents, I mean, maybe one day they'll be able to hire you. Maybe one day they'll tell a friend. I mean, they'll listen to your podcast and they're like, oh, wow, he's a good guy. Like, I really enjoy what he's talking about. He like the way he works. It's just a beautiful, because ultimately there will be a point where what you're learning will pay off. I mean, I always tell people that what I learned in my 30s and 40s, I want to pay off in my 50s, right? So that's my focus. Like, okay, I'm 50. This decade is all about teaching and learning and really growing and setting up for the, like the foundation for the rest of my life. I'm, who knows how long I'm going to have, but like, I need, but to your point, and I think it's a brilliant one related to learning and growth. You have to have a plan for that. And, you have to know, okay, I'm going to invest in these things. And it's an investment in yourself. That's what side hustles are as well, right? And that investment, some pay off and some don't. But as long as you're learning and growing, that's a beautiful thing. And then, about your cat dying, pets are just such an important part of our lives, and it's sad that you couldn't display that truly human emotion on the sadness of losing your pet, your pet dying. But it's nice that you recognize that, because as a human, we always want to get better, and we may not all, change society right away, but having the conversation about it and, being a little vulnerable about it is good. It's only going to free you. because then what you're going to do is you're going to just come into your own. Like, you're going to be free. Just imagine if you're free to share your emotion. Like, no one can touch you. You're almost bulletproof in that sense, right? Because you're so comfortable with yourself. Once you come into that, you're unstoppable. You're absolutely unstoppable. So
the feeling would be amazing. That's the thing. Yeah. That's like, that was like an awesome piece of advice.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been around a little bit. It's the reason why there's gray in the beard, you know, and the wrinkles around the eyes. It's like, I've been through a lot. Not to say, I mean, and the beautiful thing is I've got so much to learn. This is the thing you realize, like, I just don't know what I don't know. And even like, I learn from everyone, like young people, old people, people from different countries. It's a beautiful thing when you just open your mind and you open your heart to the possibility of anyone in the world can teach you something. Anyone, doesn't matter who they are. And we just all want to learn and get better. And like, when you have that, like the freedom to express yourself and then the freedom to open your heart for what's coming in, they can't take anything away from you. Like, you who you are, right? And that's the beautiful thing about what's happening, you know, nowadays with the internet, and you and I can talk, right? We'd have never known each other, right? Like, when am I ever going to get out to where you are? When are we ever going to, right? But, and we met through matchmaker.fm, which is a great platform for this sort of thing. But think about it. The very act of us having this conversation, talking about our different cultural differences, we're men at different places in our life, different ages, talking about really human things in different societies. I mean, never would have happened before. So even though we have some challenges in the world, I think as we have these conversations and build the bridges between different cultures and different people, it's just going to blossom into something beautiful. And that can't be stopped. Like, the one thing that's universally, I think, true is, you know, hate and negativity just never flourish. It's all about positivity and love within the context of helping out other people. So if you have that in your mind, you're just unstoppable, because you really have nothing to lose and only beauty to gain, you know? So.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, that's like you're actually like throwing away like such wisdom. Yeah. Such profound wisdom. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, let's move on to the next thing. So, like, what advice would you give to your younger self? Like, if you are just 18 right now, what would you say to yourself?
Wow. That's I've actually thought about this, because there's some things I regret in life. I don't regret very much, but there's some things I regret. And then I realized, well, if I would have done those things as a younger person, my life would have been totally different. Like, one regret I constantly come back to and ruminate on is why I wanted to go in the military. Like, why didn't I go in the military? Because I actually wanted to be a fighter pilot. I mean, all these things, right? And I constantly ruminate on this, like, what would have happened if I was in the military or went into the military? And because I have a lot of friends that are in the military now, and I'm honestly a little envious of some of them. I'm like, oh, you're doing such cool stuff. Like, they're Navy SEALs, they're Green Berets, you know, they're, you know, PJs in the air. I mean, just like, you know, I feel. But then I realized it's like, well, if I would have done that, you know, I would have had a very different life. I mean, that would have been one of those things you mentioned before, these seminal moments that have changed your life forever. So as I think about it, you know, the real advice that I like to, you know, of course, I'm older. I love giving advice to people. In fact, I have to learn to train myself to not only give advice when asked. That's the one thing I think as a younger person, I would really say, like, don't be quick to advise someone. Be quick to ask questions and help them, and only give advice when asked. Like, really try hard to be like, let the person you're talking to like really sort it out. And as a boss, that's actually really important. As a boss, what you say matters. And most of the time bosses have bad ideas. So, all you bosses out there, you all have bad ideas. Your team will be able to solve a problem better than you can if you let your ego go and you give them the space to ask. Your job's to ask questions. So as a younger, I probably would ask more questions. I would be more, I'd be more considerate of other people. I wouldn't be so, I was really driven by money when I was younger, and it didn't make me happy. And I know you hear that a lot. A lot of people hear that a lot. Well, it's because you got money now. Well, in the past, I had a lot more money than I have now, and it all went away. And I'm still here, right? So I think it would be listen more and have more like relationships, build better friendships, and really try to be more open. Because I have a lot of anxiety about talking. I know it sounds silly. Like I have a podcast, I talk all the time, but I do this to train myself to be able to have a conversation with people, because I have a hard time with it, to be honest. And that is spawned from my younger days, like when I was younger. So I would say, try to be as, present as you can. Try not to give advice as much as listen and ask questions. Really be curious more. But, in terms of the decisions I made, although I occasionally ruminate about, I should have been a fighter pilot. I'm like, well, my life would be very different if I was in the military. I mean, very different. So I think I just got to get over that. But I think I'd say, listen more. Don't be too quick for advice, and just try to be patient. More patient.
And be curious. That's the thing.
Yeah, and be curious. Yeah, be curious.
Yeah, though, like one thing that is coming to my mind is like this generation and your generation is like very similar. Yeah, you can say that. Like people now are like many, like a big portion of the population are struggling with communication. They don't know how to talk properly. Like even myself, like I don't know how to talk properly. Like I'm learning. So like as you said, like your generation, like many of your friends, I'm pretty sure that many of your people around you, or like people you may know, also have this issue, like of your generation. Like, but there is a thing that most people think that the older generations were like extremely different from us. Like, yes, they were like, the times were different. The technology was different. Like they didn't have the way, like they didn't have these resources we have right now. But like people also like talk. People used to talk the same way. People used to communicate. That's the thing. Like, so the generations are like the people are similar. We have more resources, and we're using it to just get better.
Yeah, I mean, each generation has its burden, is like I like to say, and it's not. I mean, the burden can be a different burden, and to some people, the burden of technology and social media is like, oh, this is not a burden, this is a godsend. And you're like, no, it's actually for the young, it's a burden. It's a huge burden for the younger generation, because everything you do is the world can see. So you screw up and do something silly, right? Everyone knows about it. Or, you only see your best Instagram life, right? Like there's no way, and there's no way everyone's that popular and having that much fun. It's like ridiculous, right? And so the younger generation that come up in this stuff, right? It's like, it's a huge burden, and even me, I try not to get on social media, because I can feel the addiction of like, oh, look at me. I mean, okay, right, I do a podcast. Okay, fine. There's a little bit of look at me, but I don't, it's a different kind of thing, because like we're trying to educate people, help people, of course, give them advice, but the burden is high. you know, and I actually feel for the younger generation that had to come up in this being digital native and all of the things that are just distractions and or make you feel bad, you know, like not everyone's life is Instagram, you know, like I think we got to share more of the struggle and challenge, and not like here in Silicon Valley, it's like, it's always sunny in Silicon Valley. Everyone's crushing it. We're all unicorns. It's like, that's so much BS. Like, there's no way. Like we you know, it's not all like the show Silicon Valley. There's some truth to the show Silicon Valley. Don't get me wrong. They do a good job of getting the hyper broad, like completely craziness here. But it ain't all sunny in Silicon Valley, man. I mean, it's not. And there's a lot of the Sand Hill Road is littered with the carcasses of someone's dream completely shattered, right? I mean, it's just the way it is, but we don't talk about it. And partly because, you know, entrepreneurs are delusional. We're like overly optimistic, and you know, and that delusion is not like a psychology problem. The delusion is not bad. The delusion is, I think I can make this happen, and it's hard to do. If you don't have a little bit of that, you'll never try anything. You'll never risk failure, right? So yeah, it's interesting how each generation has its sort of burden, and then also has its like moment, right? Like right now, this generation is having its moment of trying to figure out inequality and really pushing forward on, because of social media, because of the hyper connectivity, we are starting to champion these things on inequality that are pretty profound, right? And never would have happened 20 years ago. It's never, like, you know, although the seeds of those movements have been planted way back when, but never to as much effect as it can be affected now.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that. Yeah, it's just like everything has like its good and bad sides. Like people are comparing themselves because of social media, and on the flip side, people are protesting against inequality and the negative sides because of social media. Like, so everything has like both, like there are both sides of the coin, the good side, the bad side, and there's like, we have to think from like a neutral perspective, like you have to have an objective view and then judge it, because nothing is good or bad. It's just how we use it.
Yeah, I think there's probably some rare exceptions to that, but I think that's generally a good heuristic and a good philosophy to have. I mean, yeah, social media brings us together. Technology brings us together. Like we mentioned before, you and I never would have met without technology.
Absolutely.
Never in a billion years. There's almost 8 billion people. What's the chances that the 50-year-old tall white guy with a beard from Silicon Valley is going to meet the,
this guy?
Yeah. You know, I mean, honestly, like, it's beautiful, right? I mean, it really is. It's like, it's beautiful because that's the benefit of it, right? And of course, there's downside. You know, sometimes people get in their own little silos, their echo chamber. They amplify all this hate because they're naive and they're uninformed. But, you know, it can then build bad things too. And I think we have to really be cautious of that. But I think generally it's, you know, each generation's got its blessings and its burdens, I guess would be the word I would use.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we are almost at an end. Yeah. What you were in my shoes?
Well, no, I mean, I don't think I would have asked anything different. I mean, this is the beautiful thing about a conversation. It sort of takes on a life of its own. I mean, there's questions, obviously, and that sort of sets the stage. But as a conversation evolves and moves on, it is what it is. It's interesting. It's a unique thing in time that will never happen again. I mean, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful, right? We will never have this moment ever again, but we will fondly remember the time we had together. So in that sense, that there's nothing that we hadn't covered that we shouldn't have covered, right? Of course, like if you had a other specific thing or like pulled on a thread or a nugget of something that I've said or something that you said, but generally the thing I've learned about conversations is when people are authentic and they're just trying to get to know each other, and it's truly like, well, how do I get to know you? Everything is said that's been said that needs to be said, and there's nothing more to say. It sounds very like philosophical, but I mean, this moment in time is our moment in time, right? And it's recorded for people to listen to, and we hope they enjoy it. But I think you're doing a pretty good job, so keep it up. It's hard to do. I mean, honestly, like it's hard to put yourself out there, be vulnerable. Oh, I didn't say the right thing. How do I say this? Oh, I'm on record. Oh, this is so scary. Over time, you're just going to get way better at it. Like the more you do this, it's going to flow naturally, and it's going to feel good, and you're going to have great conversations, and you're going to expand your world, and you're just like, that is going to, you're going to find out more like, oh, you know what? I'm really interested in blah. How I put that in the conversation, like the whole ADA thing that we talked about.
Yeah.
You want to help people in their business, have them with their plan and get the word out. Right. So that's what my friend Neville over at Copywriter Course does, right? Like it's his whole job. He loves to copywrite because he loves to tell stories. And so he's built up this business for himself. And there's times where he does it for free. There's times where he has to pay, or you can take his course or whatever. But like that's his contribution, right? And so your contribution is having a space that we can talk about things and see where it goes. And so, the more you do this, the more you're going to find that when you're interested, like, God, wow, that was a really interesting. Tell me more about that. People are going to be like, wow, Mahmoud, you're a great interviewer. Man, what a great conversation. You're like, I didn't say anything. I just asked a question, right? But you'll learn that, right? You'll be like, oh, I just got to ask more questions and sit back and listen and add a little anecdote. Oh, wow. Yeah. So it's beautiful, right? It's beautiful.
Yeah. The beauty of one conversation.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. So where can our listeners find you? Online or offline?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I do a podcast called the Entrepreneur Ethos podcast. You can find it at theentrepreneuroethos.com. That's where I have all my interviews and stuff. I'm on Twitter at the Daily MBA because I have a blog called thedailymba.com. So you can find me there. And I'm on LinkedIn, and I mean, it's pretty easy to find me on the internet. My name is pretty unique. And I put a lot of stuff out there. And so I really appreciate you having me on your show. It's been a lot of fun. I hope everyone, that's listening, got something out of it. Like I said, conversations like this are really important among all sorts of different people because we sort of share our mutual humanity, like we're all just trying to figure it out. So why not figure it out together?
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's the ending of the show, and hope everyone got value out of it. And bye.